It's Wednesday, October the 8th. Good morning and welcome to your perfect day starter, the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikelu here in Lagos.
And in Abuja, you could choose to sleep on your dreams, sleep in your dreams, or wake up and catch them. It's your second alarm clock right here on Channels Television, a perfect morning starter. Welcome. I am Bukola Koka. So let's chase dreams together. Kayode, starting with you. What have we got today?
Quite a lineup, Bukola. Yes, no sleeping on the show today. We're starting off with something that played out just right next to you, Bukola, in the nation's capital. Professor Mahmood Yakubu, who is now outgone INEC chairman, has handed over to one of the national commissioners in the institution, May Agbamuche, as the acting national chairman of INEC. A lot of people saw this coming, but it came as a surprise nonetheless. First, there was no announcement, there was no build-up to this day. It was just an ordinary day. They were meant to look at everyday issues in INEC. And what did we have? A handover, and the now former INEC chairman leaves office. 10 years he has served, conducted 2 national elections. Oh yes, the longest serving. He's served even longer than presidents. At some point he's probably more powerful than the president, up until the president is of course sworn in. So 10 years of service. What would people remember him for? Naturally, the 2023 elections and some of the controversies that still trailed that election. A lot of people will remember him for the technology shift that the commission also saw under him, which was responsible again for a lot of the controversies. But Bukola, I mean, this happened right next to you. What was in the air at that point in Abuja?
It was quite surprising, Kayode, to see that there was a handover at the electoral office yesterday, Independent National Electoral Commission. Why? Because Professor Mahmood Yakub still had a few weeks to go. But according to him, he had to hand over because he wanted to give the next man that would be in the saddle ample time, to prepare and take office. But Kayode, one question, someone asked me yesterday, and of course, which, dominated space in my mind as well, particularly as he handed over to the most senior national commissioner at the electoral office, Mrs. May Agbamuche Umbu. So, Kayode, why shouldn't the next INEC boss be chairwoman of the Independent National Electoral Commission? That's a question we should be putting through to the corridors of power this morning as we, advance in our conversation on the need for more women representation, in public office. It's a very important conversation. So we've dropped that, for those who should be reflecting on it. But talking about Professor Mahmood Yakub, of course, you talked about the technology that was introduced into our electoral process under his watch, the BVAS, Bimodal Voter Accreditation System. Of course, we also had, the IREV portal that was deployed for the display and uploading of election results, which, of course, also became the center of controversy amid the 2023 presidential election debate, where INEC reported a technical glitch in the uploading of presidential election results that were hitherto not seen in the elections that had been conducted prior to that time. And so one of the things that will dog his leadership at INEC in the last 10 years would be the technical glitch. Many are asking what happened. They're still asking till today that it was a vague explanation as to what happened to the presidential election results. But of course, there was also, amid the 2019 general elections, concerns about inconclusive elections for governorship elections, for National Assembly elections, of course, which we also saw a bit of during the 2023 presidential elections. But we cannot take away the fact that the INEC boss did his best. Under his watch, we also saw in the last 1 year the commitment to electoral reforms, which also has been championed by civil society. But that will dominate the conversation on the program today, Kadi, I believe. But something else happened close to you yesterday in neighboring Ogun State, Kadi.
Wait, Bukola, just before we get there, you talked about women representation, either in politics, governance, and the rest. And just to mention that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan, who's one of the few women, one of the 4 in the Senate, has resumed after months of suspension. So 10-week recess that the Senate had ended yesterday, and we saw all of the lawmakers returning. Well, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan also returned to her seat to continue representing her people after episodes of drama, controversy in the court, at the National Assembly premises and all of that. So she's back now. She appeared for the first time since serving a 6-month suspension. You see, in fact, other things happened. You saw some senators also dressing in Palestinian colors and attire, advocated for a free Palestine. Lots of things happened, but I wanted to highlight that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan is now back in the Senate. So, Kogi Central people, your representation has returned, and I hope that with the time left, which is not very much, a lot would be done. And don't forget, some of the cases are still in court, so we'll, of course, follow up with that one. So, Bukola, I needed to mention that for women representation, because you were talking about why not have a chairperson, female chairperson for INEC in the coming days. We'll see how President Bola Tinubu is able to swing that and ensure that the right person is nominated for that office. So back to what you were talking about, Bukola. Well, Ogun Airport is now operational, at least for a commercial flight. In fact, Governor Dapo Abiodun, who, of course, launched the airport, described that Gateway International Airport in Iperu-Ilishan as one of the fastest constructed airports in Nigeria. Why? It was built within 4 years, and he added that the dream of the state is to ensure that its multimodal transportation connects road, rail, air, and water. I mean, we know that Ogun State is a very important state in terms of industrialization. In fact, it's called the Gateway State because it's the gateway to Lagos for the nation. So it plays a pivotal role when it comes to economic development in Nigeria. So it's important to ensure that all of the stars align for the state to harness all of the potential that it has. So you see that inaugural flight, you see state officials getting off the flight, the value jet flight, by the way. So it's good to see. Enugu did this some months ago. Now Ogun State is doing this. It's beautiful to see. More importantly, how will this impact on the economy of the state? I expect that a lot of people will be looking at this and jumping on it, ultimately for the good of the state. Bukola, I bet you wish you were on that inaugural flight yesterday.
Not necessarily, Kayode. There are many wishes, you know, but being on that inaugural flight was not one of them. But congratulations to Ogun State on the first inaugural flight for the Ogun Gateway International Airport. But we should be asking Ogun residents, or perhaps, you know, other residents in neighboring states, would Ogun Gateway International Airport be, you know, a first airport of choice in their travel options? It's located in Iperu, Ilisha, Remo Road, some kilometers, I believe, away from the capital, Abeokuta. So I'm wondering just how strategic that is. Or know also that there's also the Ibadan Airport, the project of the Oyo State government in neighboring, you know, Oyo State. So this, we must also talk about the penchant for, you know, airport projects by state governors. I can't take out of my mind, you know, the submission by the MD of FAN that only 3 airports, you know, are funding, you know, other international airports. So we must talk about commercial viability, you know, of these airports as governors continue to embark on airport projects. But they would tell you that in other countries of the world, there are airports in almost every municipality. But we must also look at, you know, the account books of those other countries in terms of revenue generation, in terms of how strategically placed those airports are. it's in the mix already. It's in the list of, long line of the list of state airports that we now have. So congratulations to Ogun State. Kayode.
Congratulations. For some people, they might just want to come through that airport to Lagos, if that's an option that they have, if all of the flights are booked. It's just about an hour plus from at least the boundary of Lagos and Ogun State. So maybe that can be an option, and the Ibadan one as well. But the point you made is very valid, Bukola. We must ensure that they are viable. It's not just for the optics. On a final note, let's tell you that a bill seeking to impose a 10-year ban on the issuance of international passports to Nigerians who are convicted of crimes abroad and subsequently deported has passed second reading at the Senate. So just to break it down, the proposal is that if you are a Nigerian and you are convicted of crimes abroad, first, you'll be deported home, and then you get a 10-year ban on the issuance of international passports. So you will not be able to travel outside of a country to embarrass or disgrace Nigeria. So let's tell you that that bill has passed second reading at the Senate. Whether or not this bill will eventually sail through is another big question, but I think it will be a test for the Nigerian Senate just to see its position on corruption-related issues. So I think it presents the 10th Senate, the National Assembly by extension, a big opportunity to make a statement. So all eyes on the Senate, and we'll see if this sails through. I don't know if you have any sense to add to this, Bukola.
Leading the debate yesterday, Senator Ogwoshi did say that it is both punitive and deterrent to discourage criminal conduct that damages the standing of the Nigerian passport and its citizens abroad. And just to say that perhaps this should not be applicable alone to, the average Nigerian who travels abroad or to seek greener pastures, but also to high-profile individuals who are tried, prosecuted and convicted on corruption charges. That ban should apply to them as well. What do you think, Kayode?
Well, I want to imagine that this applies to everyone, whether you are high-standing or not high-standing in that sense. This must apply to everyone. And again, that is a test of this whole law, if it eventually passes, to ensure that this covers everyone. So wait to see how that plays out. It's yet another day at the National Assembly to see the issues that will be discussed. As we advised yesterday, Nigerians must pay attention to everything that plays out on the floor of the National Assembly, because exactly 2 years plus ago, the screening of a minister who just resigned played out on the floor of the Senate, and majority of the senators told him, bow and go. We know you. In fact, you were elected as a senator, you just weren't sworn in, you dropped it. So you're almost one of us, so bow and go, except the Senate president who asked questions of him. But eventually, he did bow and go, and this is what we have on our hands. Maybe they could have saved him from this embarrassment if there was more scrutiny. But hey, we'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll take a look at the front pages and how they are reporting all of the big stories, particularly the resignation of the Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the morning brief on Channels Television, and time now for our newspaper review segment. And, the papers are huge on, the handover yesterday of, leadership at the Independent National Electoral Commission of Professor Mahmood Yakub. But joining us now, to look at a review of the papers is Mr. Igu Akiria. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Okay, good morning. Abuja studio, I guess.
Yes.
You want to say,
Pardon
maybe
me.
you still think you're in Lagos.
I'm quite used to being in the Lagos studio.
Absolutely.
So let's start with this Nigeria. This Nigeria, trails a departure from, what's happening on the home front. Take a look at this. No genocide in Nigeria. Senate tells United States. Refutes reports Christians are being targeted in the north. Urges foreign missions to verify claims. It appears as if this story is not going away anytime soon, particularly since, early last week, I think it was even the week before, when the Minister of Information, had cause to report to a particular program content from the United States speaking to genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Why do you think it keeps coming back?
Well, I think it keeps coming back because there have not been adequate attention by the federal government of Nigeria to deal with the issue. Can anyone actually deny that Nigerians are not being killed? I think not just only Christians, but the numbers, if you look at the numbers comparatively, perhaps, particularly looking at the numbers of churches in northern Nigeria that have been extincted, destroyed completely, perhaps that is why the outcry is coming out. So there is a group in the United States that has consistently advocated for a more punitive action by the U.S. government against those responsible for these killings. So this is coming up over and over again because the killings have not stopped. As we speak, we have Kwara State, Kogi State being attacked. Now, whether it is Christians that are being attacked is a different conversation entirely. Villages are being wiped out. This argument is coming up because, as I said earlier, most communities, particularly in northern Nigeria, where you have dominated areas by Christians, actually being wiped out. In Benue State, for example, in Plateau State. So these are recurring issues, and if you look at the numbers of killings, it's quite huge.
That was from Tuesday. This Nigeria, I just caught it now, is actually trailing the minister's resignation. Mr. President, I resign. Tinubu accepts resignation of Minister Nnaji over allegations of certificate forgery. Ex-minister blames political detractors. Yes, that's it, this Nigeria. Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, well, for the resignation of Nnaji, I saw it coming once the news broke that the minister's degree certificate in microbiology is controversial, is questionable. I knew that he was not going to come out smelling of roses, but it took so long for him to even resign. I saw a spirited effort that he put up. Even yesterday, I saw a gentleman who introduced himself as a media consultant to the minister, putting up a spirited defense, but he was not answering the question directly. If you have a degree certificate and the registrar of the university and the vice chancellor are disowning your certificate, now that leaves anybody in a quandary as to why you insist that your certificate is credible. Even for not just even the degree certificate, it also affected this NYC certificate. It's unfortunate that we have public office holders who parade questionable certificates. In fact, even at the highest level. I remember in 1997 or 98 when I was a middle-level reporter with the news magazine, the News Tempo PM News. Incidentally, Bayo Nanuga, who is the spokesperson to the president, was the editor-in-chief at the time. A lead report in the news, the face of a liar, Salisu Buhari, he was Speaker of the House of Representatives at the time. He also paraded the certificate. He claimed that he got that certificate from a university in Chicago. The news did an in-depth investigation report and came out that he actually forged that certificate. Eventually, he resigned when he owned up that the certificate was forged. I think beyond the resignation of Minister Nnaji, I also expect a follow-up by security agencies. This morning, he should be taken in for further questioning. It's not the little people, the ordinary Nigerians, when they forge documents, the police go after them. If it is true, it has been confirmed that this minister has forged his degree certificate, then he should face the law. The law is clear on forgery. And of course, all the monies he has been paid as Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, I think he should refund all those money because he was paid all those money on the basis of false pretense, false presentation, and forgery.
But let's assume
this cannot be the end of the matter.
That, perhaps the minister is has honest intentions and can in fact defend that certificate. What about their stance that there's a lot of political undertones at the root of this, that the investigating platform media organization has been induced by the state government which sees him as an obstacle to the 2020, the next general election, his ambition in the next general election. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, he's in the Federal High Court now. He has filed a suit. I mean, maybe the court will determine all of that. But I doubt if I graduated from the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, for example, and then maybe I've been targeted by my political opponents, and they say I don't have a degree from that institution. Well, it is then up to the institution and myself to prove that I do have that degree. You know, so it is not enough for him to use political opponents as, I see that as alibi. That this is my opinion, you know, because once, if the university, now, is it saying that the VC is compromised, the registrar is compromised, everybody, the NYC too is compromised? I mean, these are questions that, because when the news broke, I was looking at all of the issues. The University of Nigerian Nsukka does not issue the NYC certificate. These are two different independent institutions. So that was why I became worried that if two of the certificates you are having that entitles you to the position that you are holding are being questioned, I mean, for me, that speaks volumes. Well, it is still an open story. It is a running story. The court will have to do, we examine and evaluate all the evidence before it. And then Nigerians will know who is telling lies here. If the minister indeed is right to say that political opponents are targeting maybe the governor of Enugu State. I do not know. He's already governor. What does the governor want? He's already governor. He is a minister. I don't think the governor will want to leave Enugu State to come and become minister. So I do not know where, or that doesn't tidy up, you know, in my view.
And you know, your earlier position is also quite instructive, that investigators should follow this up, question him. But can we determine this by, you know, past treatments of cases of certificate controversy? But Mr. Akeria, there's one story yet again on the front page of this Nigeria that we cannot ignore. Is at the bottom strip. Benin Palace rejects Iyaloja for Edo markets, warns against cultural imposition. This has been in the running in the last few days. How do you see this playing out? And what is the root of this story for you?
I think this story is tied to the daughter of the Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who carries the title of Iyaloja General of Nigeria. That is the head of the markets in Nigeria. I think it all started in Lagos when the president's mother, Alhaja Mogaji, was the Iyaloja of Lagos State. I think the president then was governor of Lagos State. That was when this title became so popular, you know, Iyaloja. With the emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president of Nigeria, I think the daughter then also took over from the mother and has decided to extend her market empire to Edo State. Edo State has a very rich traditional culture. I wonder why she picked Edo State. You know, Edo State resisted British invasion, British colonization. We saw the British expedition in Edo State that led to the deportation of Oba Veramed, in 1776, if I get that date right. So Edo State will not, particularly anything that has to do with the hierarchy, the hegemony, the power of the Oba of Benin. You know, it will never be tolerated. Do not forget, in the past elections in Edo State, even the president was resisted when he was told that he cannot foist on Edo State what is foisted in Lagos State. So anyone should have seen this coming, that Edo State would resist anything that has to do with imposition of a woman with a title, the Iyaloja of Edo State. I mean, for me, I think it's an aberration, and people should just know their limits.
All right. There are more papers this morning trailing other stories. Kayode.
Oh, yes. Well, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Akeria. Don't worry, we'll boost that up so you can hear me well. Vanguard leads with a story they started with yesterday, and it's about roads. So it's part 2 of federal highways of horror. Motorists, travelers in anguish cry out for urgent government intervention. Lack of funds hampering our intervention. That's FEMA. So today they're focusing on Southeast and north. And the roads you see there on the front page, eroded road section in Bauchi, failed road in Niger State, Azomini Road in Ukwa East, Abia to Akwa Ibom State. These roads look like, as I said yesterday, something from the 1900s, not even 1990 anymore, because I don't want to imagine that these roads actually exist. But hey, that is the reality of a lot of Nigerians who have to ply this route. Mr. Keria, you travel a lot. I mean, how hard is it to fix these roads?
Well, I didn't hear a word of what Kayode was saying, really. I think there's a technical problem.
Oh dear, Mr. Keria, don't worry, we'll resolve that. But let me toss this to Bukola. So Bukola, you can go ahead from there.
Kayode was trailing the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, which focuses on the concern, or more, appropriately, the agony that travelers face, when they travel on these roads. The picture tells the story, Mr. Keria.
Yes, I saw this report in the Vanguard. You do not need to read the report in the Vanguard to know that across the country, whether it is the northwest, northeast, south, maybe southwest is a bit better with road connection. But as you move away from the southwest to south-south, virtually all the roads in the south-south are death traps. They are very deplorable. The southeast is worse, and then of course the northeast will have some measure of good roads, but lately the roads have all gone bad. So the Vanguard has done a very beautiful story this morning. It captures the feeling and the agony and the plight that most Nigerians face as they travel across the country. It is so pathetic. I traveled to the south-south. I just returned from Delta State. You cannot, the train is not working at the moment. And those who travel by road, if you have to leave the nation's capital, Abuja here, maybe 7 a.m., you should expect to get to Warri about midnight, 12 noon, for a journey that ordinarily should be 5 or 6 hours. So that is how it is. As we move on to the southeast, it is worse. The Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, is from Ebonyi State. I read part of the Vanguard report is that even all the roads, almost all the roads in Ebonyi State are bad. But you see the minister on TV every time doing some kind of photo ops and optics, saying that the roads are looking better, and a road, I think the Port Harcourt-Aba Expressway was commissioned by the federal, by him or somebody 2 days ago, and it dominated, the front pages and the media space. I mean, it is not enough to do these photo ops when Nigerians are actually in agony. From Kogi State, if you leave the nation's capital, once you get to Lokoja, that is the farthest you can go. From Lokoja to Kenya, and as you go to Edo State, it is clearly impassable. The road has completely failed, and so it is with most federal roads across the country. As as the government says they are getting more resources, I would think that a large chunk of these resources should be devoted to fixing these roads so that Nigerians can have a breath of life. We are approaching Christmas right now. I don't know how the government is going to handle all of that as Nigerians travel to their respective states and communities to celebrate the Yuletide. So indeed, the Vanguard story captures the feelings of Nigerians this morning.
And this is the second day running the Vanguard focusing on roads. Yesterday it was Benin Sapele, and today there's Bauchi. There's also one other road in the north, in the southeast in Abia. That's on the right-hand side of your screen as you look at the camera focusing on the Vanguard newspaper. And there are failing bridges also.
Absolutely.
Mr. Keria, it appears as if the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road is not suffering, a deficit of funding, as these roads are. What are your thoughts on this?
It's about priorities and interests. I don't know why the president appears to be so focused and interested on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. I don't know. I doubt how many Nigerians will go travel to that road. By the way, my
producer is drawing my attention also to Calabar-Odukpani, Akwa Ibom Road, that is also in a deplorable state.
Absolutely very, very deplorable. You mentioned Sapele, for the Part 1 report. You know, I'm from Sapele myself. You know, you cannot travel from Sapele to Warri. It's completely cut off. It's filled. One part, you know, I can see that Dave Umahi says that they are doing cement road where, you know, that can last for 50, 100 years. And one part of the road has been done a very short distance, you know, that run from my community at DJ to one small place. And then the entire stretch of the other road from Sapele to Warri is completely filled. Then to Benin's field, the Calabar, the Dukman road that you talked about is completely impassable. You go through there, you can't dare go there. I think that is what has also accounted for the spate of kidnappings, armed robbery, and violent crimes on the road. Because if the roads are not good, people will just lay siege on road users, passengers, and then abduct people. So it's a complex issue, and I think the government should at least play down on the coastal road and focus on this eternal federal. Let's fix these ones first. Then we can go to the coastal road. There's nothing wrong with fixing a coastal road, but let Nigerians have the ability to at least be able to move around freely first within the existing roads. It should be fixed before we can then talk about building a new coastal road that is gulping trillions and trillions of naira. I think that is not a good focus.
Indeed. I wonder if we can now hear Kayode, or you can hear him now. Kayode, let's try this again.
I don't think.
You have The Guardian.
Okay.
Okay, so let me quickly take The Guardian newspaper as we wrap up now. It trails another more important subject, and that's security. Listen to this. Anxiety lingers over insecurity, fate of displaced persons. Mr. Igo Akiria, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, eternally displaced persons, in this case, not persons now because they are known, eternally displaced Nigerians in their own country is becoming very, very worrisome. From Borno State, Sokoto State, Katsina State, Plateau State, Benue. I mean, these are all, apart from being killing fields, you now have huge numbers of Nigerians that are in primary schools, in dilapidated buildings, which we have tagged as centers for IDPs. It is worrisome. Well, this morning I'll commend Professor Babagana Zulum of the governor of Borno State. He is really putting a lot of effort to rehabilitate communities and put people back to their communities. But of course, Boko Haram is resurging and is attacking those communities. I commend our troops, the security force. They are doing their best, but whether their best is sufficient is another conversation. Well, it is worrisome. There is no country that I know of, and that is why I read a report last night where they say Nigeria is becoming one of the most dangerous places to live in. We cannot demarcate our country, but the reality on the ground is that even when it's Abuja here, even safe, we saw a report of an Arise reporter from Shuku who also died as a result of armed robbery attack. People are being kidnapped from their homes and being attacked on the roads. That is the nation's capital. You dare not travel on the road, maybe from here to interstate travel. So generally, people are having a lot of problems and communities are being attacked. People are being completely wiped out from their communities and sent to makeshift IDP camps. It is a worrisome development. I'm sure it will be gaining the government's attention as we move forward.
That is the expectation. And we must anchor at this point, and thank you very much for your insights on the newspaper review segment. Mr. Igo Akira is a member Nigerian Guild of Editors and a senior journalist. Thank you for coming.
It's always a pleasure.
Program, sir.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll begin our first conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Let's start off with an all-important issue. The price of cooking gas is now prohibitive. A few months ago, people were buying a kilogram of cooking gas for less than 1,000 naira. And even at that, it was a lot for a lot of people. But now, with 2,000 naira, you barely even find gas in certain areas. Some have to pay 2,000 naira plus. Some pay as much as 3,000 naira just to get that all important commodity, which is actually not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. So see people queuing in Lagos State, I must say, just to get gas. So look at that queue. This is reminiscent of the times we had to queue to buy petrol with our jerry cans. What exactly is at play here? Well, the NNPCL Group Chief Executive, Mr. Bayo Julari, had said that it's as a result of that strike by Pengasan, which started on a Monday and ended on a Wednesday. And he says that's what's responsible for this. But when you look and read between the lines, you begin to see other facts that are also responsible for this. So this morning on the program, we want to get to the heart of why cooking gas is very expensive and even not available for a lot of Nigerians. After all, it's been said that you should stop using firewood, kerosene, and all of that. So the only option is now even not available. We're joined on the program this morning by the National President of the Nigeria Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers, Mr. Oladapo Olatunbosun, joins us virtually on the program. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. Olatunbosun.
Good morning, Coyote. Good morning, Nigeria.
I'll go straight to it. What exactly is playing out here? Why is it that expensive? Because we hear that ex-depot price is usually less than 1,000 naira. In fact, there are proposals for Dangote to supply that just about 700 plus naira. Why are people buying it for 2,000, 3,000? And for a lot of them, it's not even available.
Well, thank you, Coyote. That's a good question you asked. First and foremost, let me sympathize with a lot of Nigerians and also possibly give an apology as the president of Nigerian LPG marketers. We never intended to have a market situation like this. Things were getting better and we're happy we are celebrating it. All of a sudden we find ourselves at the point we find ourselves. But I must say it categorically that the price of gas has not gone up. No increment has been done officially. What is happening is that people are catching up on the little short in supply and the market forces that have made the demand to go up higher than the available quantity. They are catching up on it to make quick money, which is wrong. We frown at this as an association, and I'm happy by the grace of God Almighty. In the next few days, normalcy will come. Things will come back to its normal. Nigeria will continue to enjoy gas at a reasonable price that they are using to supply. You will recall, just like you said in your intro, that gas were being sold at less than 1,000 plus. Yes, that was the price which was celebrated. Before now, or about a few months back, gas were being sold at 1,300, 1,200, 1,004. But recently, it came down. And the reason for that is because of the introduction of Dangote, who commenced selling gas at commercial quantity. And that Dangote was actually trucking out by eliminating a long chain of middlemen that actually accounted for that. So they are selling directly, and the gap has been shrinking. That made the price to land at a reasonable cost, and we are all enjoying. But what actually caused this artificial and temporary scarcity, I will explain it to you. Before the strike, when you load for Dangote, because they are turning out about 50 trucks on a daily basis, which is huge. It satisfies the Southwest. Add it to what we get from Apapa and other depot in Lagos, because they also source their product from IOC and other producers, and so Dangote came in with its own strategy, selling directly to off-takers that are actually in the business, and the chain of distributors are being shortened. That made the landing cost to be reasonable, and a lot of people go there. So your truck goes into Dangote refinery, it comes back that day, and they were turning about 50. Excellent, superb. And that actually made importation not to be attractive, because if you import, you won't be able to compete, and a lot of buyers activities are going on there, then you import, you are likely to incur losses. So people that are importing to supplement actually being discouraged, because it was the best place to buy because the price is reasonable, it's accessible, and it's more convenient to feed the Southwest and part of the North. But at the time, Dangote also commenced renovation stroke maintenance, which actually delay loading. There were times that trucks were spending about 13 days, 14 days in Dangote yard before they could get products. That was a lag, which actually was a delay, which inhibits the flow of gas into the society. But as at that time, people switched on to Apapa. So Apapa also had their stock. People were buying. So nobody feel the impact there because Apapa was like a standby and people were buying from Apapa. Apparently, products that they've not been able to sold before, they got people to buy when there was delay in Dangote. We passed that stage when Dangote finished the renovation, about to commence full loading, the issue of strike came up. And when the strike came up, how does it affect supply from Dangote? They don't stop their own production. But everybody had rushed to Apapa. Apapa was now out of products. All the depots in Apapa were dry. So the only vessel that came to NOJ Axis was meant to supply about 3 depots. That vessel could not bat because the strike was on. Even when it batted, they could not offload. The officers to inspect it were not on ground. And that caused about 3 to 5 days loss. That 5 days showed the real impact of the backlog that we had experienced from irregular flow from Dangote. Then the only option that we have now also dried out and they couldn't get a new supply. Now the product, as the strike is off, the product has been discharged. They are in the silo, in the storage of the terminal, trucking out. But because everywhere is dried up, and Southwest is the only part of Nigeria that consumed large part of LPG in Nigeria. And the fact is that our national consumption has actually gone up. Unlike what we had in 2 years ago, that we are stagnant on 1.2 to 1.3 million per annum. Now we've gone up to 1.8 at a peak of 1.9, approaching 2 million metric tons per annum. That's such.
Right.
Because the introduction of Dangote products and the price came down. So everybody in Southwest were actually getting that one. So the supply for Southwest was distorted.
Right.
And now that the product had come, the rush at the depot was quite clumsy. Nigerians are not too orderly. Trucks were not well arranged. It is an Herculean task to get your truck loaded. All this is what we are trying to arrange and get the product accessible to people. And the NLNG is also trucking. Another vessel is due in about 3-4 days' time. That's coming to Lagos. By weekend, by the grace of God, this thing will fiddle out.
Well, Mr.
Olatibosu, be available.
So just to be clear, you said that it's not just the strike that was responsible for this. It had been building up before even the strike. So it was almost like a perfect condition for a chaos when the strike then happened. Just before we go to Abuja, give us the figure or the price, rather, of a kilogram of cooking gas based on the landing price as it is today, so people can begin to have an understanding of just how much they're paying extra because of this scarcity. What is the average price meant to be right now?
Fine. The average selling price, depending where you are buying. You see, most of people that brand figure of 2,000, 160, 17 out, they did not tell you the source. If you buy product from third party, 3-party, 4th party, the chain is has been extended, then the price is going up, which is quite illegal. Just like you buy petrol on the road for people that carry keg, they will sell it at exorbitant rate. So if you go to gas plants, the price you can buy today is range 1,003 maximum.
Sorry, Mr. Olatibosu, we lost you momentarily there when you were given the figure. How much did you say? 1,300? Is that what you said? All right. Connection to Mr. Olatibosu is frozen. We'll definitely get him back. He's the national president of the Nigeria Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers. And it's important to have this conversation because it concerns everyone. Food is at the very base level. And if anything happens to food, then every other thing on that hierarchy of needs is going to be affected, particularly now in Nigeria, where you don't want to have hungry citizens on your hands. He has said that there were different factors that came together to cause what we're seeing right now. It wasn't just the strike. There was a lot of build-up to this, and then the strike happened, sort of tipped it. And even at that, a lot of people are taking advantage of Nigerians right now, which is sad, and what we've seen time and again. So it's a moment to look into the mirror for Nigeria and Nigerians, the marketers, people who are selling this. But I think we have Mr. Olatunbosun back. But if we don't, we'll get connection back to him. But you're seeing images of Nigerians who are queuing for gas. I was going to say petrol, but no, they're queuing for cooking gas, which is a very important commodity. I imagine a lot of people even watching right now probably do not have gas in their cylinders. Maybe they do, probably had to buy it for 2,000, 2,500 naira or even more. But he will be speaking to us about the exact price of cooking gas. Bukola, is this a situation in the nation's capital, Abuja? I wonder what you've gleaned from your time there.
Well, perhaps not exactly the same with queues building up at LPG stations, but the pricing may also be, the same story in the nation's capital as well. But Kayode, it's a good thing we turn the light bulb on this particular subject matter, because for many Nigerians, the questions may have been running through their minds, asking why they have to buy, 12.5 kg cylinder of gas, why they have to fill it for as high as 27,000 to 30,000 naira when we already spend more than 50% of our income on food. And so we're getting a clearer picture now as to what exactly has happened. The many middlemen, according to what the national president of the association has said, in the mix, the delay in loading as well, he also referred to that. And of course, the resort to, the other option, which would be the Apapa major station, which was out of supply. So many questions arise out of this, and I hope that we can get back to him pretty soon. And that would be to ask, what measure of, LPG does Dangote supply? Does that, refining infrastructure have the capacity to supply enough to fill the consumption requirement of the country? And then pricing as well, for the other marketers of LPG, what is the pricing that they offer as against what Dangote is offering? And then, he talked about others taking advantage of Nigerians amid the temporary scarcity. Even prior to that time, if it is true that, Dangote refinery began to offer at a competitive price of between 700 and 800 naira, we should ask the marketers why Nigerians still have to pay, as much as 1,300 naira, per kilogram of LPG cooking gas, because that's rather high. But he talked about middlemen as well. Do we still have middlemen in the mix when there is, commencement? He mentioned commencement of direct distribution to the retailers who sell onwardly to the consumers. So those are the questions that are running through my mind. For a nation, that has an abundance of gas, why should there still be importation, a component in our LPG requirement, for cooking and for other needs, other industrial needs? So those questions are very critical at this point in time, and that's why perhaps we should sustain this conversation beyond this point to demand some form of, accountability for Nigerians. If indeed some marketers are taking advantage of Nigerians, amid the temporary, scarcity that we had following that strike by Pengasen, we should ask, questions to that effect as to why that impacted negatively, on Nigerians, on the quantum that was, left in supply, because we had assurances from the president of Pengassen that the strike would not significantly impact on petrol supply. I can't quite recall if he mentioned other gas needs in that, mix, but perhaps we should assume that there should have been enough supply, to cater to the the duration of the strike, because the strike went on for only a few days, and before you knew it, Nigerians had begun to groan beneath the weight of that action, seen in the astronomical increase in the price of LPG. Very, very important issues that this has raised at this point in time. And Kayode, that's another factor of the free market economy with very little regulation. Where is the regulatory authority that would protect the consumers at this very critical hour? Just 2 days, and the price of cooking gas went from 1,300 naira to 3,000 naira in some cases. And as further down your location is away from commercial nerve centers, you may be buying for even more. Kayode.
Brilliant question, Bukola. In fact, you should see the comments we're getting from a lot of people giving examples of the gas plant in the area. This viewer says, the gas plant in my area at K2 is selling 1,550. I imagine some other people saying, oh, wow, you're even lucky, right? But this viewer says that is different from the 1,300 that he's talking about. But we have Mr. Latimoso joining us back now. We've been able to reestablish connection with him. You were giving us the price, the average price that is meant to be of gas just before we lost connection. So please, you can land on that thought, then Bukola comes in.
Yes, I was telling you that people that are claiming to be buying gas at 1,720, they did not disclose the source of their purchase. If you are buying from third and fourth hand, then they catch on the problem and the increased price. But if you buy from gas revealing bottling plants, my members, you will not buy as high as that. Average price within my members in Southwest today is between 1,000 to mass of 1,003, depending on the location and the kind of overhead they incur to get the gas into the plants. Before this artificial scarcity, the price were being sold at 1,000, 1,050 naira, in some places 950. So the highest you could get from gas plant today is 1,300, depending if it's a very remote area. But if you are getting 1,710, some that you are buying from another chain of distribution is becoming elongated. You are buying from distributor, you are buying for somebody that's taking from somewhere and is catching up on the scarcity. But like I said, by the grace of God Almighty, over this weekend, normalcy will return. Another vessel is due to batch in Nnaji, supplying other terminals like NIPCO. 11 PS is trucking out now. Adova is trucking out. NIPCO is also trucking out. Then by the next 5 days, the vessel that's coming will also supply Nnaji A6, which all the storage facility within that place will be wet, and the supply will be increased. Now, Dangote has also resumed now. If we collecting money and they are using pro forma invoice to the off-taker that's ready to come and buy products. We just pray that they accelerate more on their loading. The loading is getting better now, not on like what it was about 3-4 weeks ago. You go in your truck semi about average of 2 days. That is not yet the best, but we can understand. I mean, having lost manpower of such hundreds of number, it will have its own effects too.
Right.
But I think number 6 should come there. If Dangote truck goes into Dangote a day and comes out that day with the kind of capacity they are producing, the problem will be solved within a few days. But I believe by early next week, we should come back to normalcy. Price of gas has not been officially increased. Dangote did not increase price. Dangote is selling at the right price, which is in line with international price, similar to what NLNG is selling. What makes difference between NLNG price and Dangote price is because of chain of distribution. Dangote shorten the chain of distribution and eliminate middlemen. So the product leave the binary off-taker straight to the consumer, to the marketer, and that's shorting, unlike other ones. So the average price now is to be around mass of 1.3.
And you make a very important point. Those are some of the issues that must be looked into. But Nigerians want more. Because the reports we are getting is that even Dangote is selling the ex-gantry price at the ex-gantry price for Dangote is 700 plus. Is that something you can confirm? So that will mean that Nigerians should be able to buy cooking gas at per kilogram at maybe 900, 800 or thereabouts.
Yeah, that's what I said at the beginning. The price has not changed. Price has not increased.
No, we understand that it has even crashed further to 700 plus. So I'm saying that why are we even still targeting 1,000 plus, 1,000 to 1,300 when it could be even less than that?
Let me tell you how it works. Most of the producers actually benchmark their price with the international price, Mont Belvieu price. Dangote also sell in line with Mont Belvieu price, which is very reasonable. And that is the price people are bragging around. That is ex-gantry price. And why that price works and make price to come down to below 1,000 before this crisis that is the reason, because they eliminate middlemen and the gas gets out. So that is one. Now, if NLNG too sell to their main supplier, their main off-taker at similar price. But the kind of intervention in between before it gets to last consumer from product for energy must see the price. They get to one party, another party claim it, another one not to sell it to another party before it now get to the marketer. That is why their own price high. And recently, when there was no supply from Dangote, as a result of maintenance, as a result of strike and other things, the few that had the products, now demand is too much on them, they hike the price. That's artificial scarcity. And they was bringing the figure they are saying. Normalcy will come back now. Price will come to normal. We should be selling as from next week when supplies are actually regular. Free flow from Dangote, free supply from NLNG, and other molecule producer. And you will see that this problem is peculiar to Southwest. I will tell you the reason. The NNG vessel that went to Port Harcourt last time went to each figure, each quantity, which served that area. It will be sufficient for them till when they get another vessel. And the South are not facing this pressure. North also are not facing it, even though North comes to Lagos to buy.
Right.
But because the demand in North is very low compared to Southwest. This is where we have the highest demand. I just mentioned it that our national consumption has gone up. And the percentage of increase in Southwest is higher than any other part of the country.
Well, Mr. Latimerson.
So that is what makes me think. Hello?
Yeah, I mean, we're glad you're able to make this clarification. Clearly, a lot more needs to be done in terms of the logistics and all of that. So hopefully by this weekend, as you said, normalcy should return. There should also be better monitoring in terms of prices, so people don't just take advantage of Nigerians and say, you know what, I'm selling mine for 2,250 just because I can. There must be stricter monitoring to ensure that everybody falls in line. The fact that it's a free market doesn't mean it should be free for all, and hopefully we're able to buy gas less than 1,000 naira again in the coming weeks. We have to thank you so much, Mr. Oladapo Olatunbosun, for speaking with us on this. We're able to at least get a lot from you to get a better sense of the situation. He's the national president of the Nigeria Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers. We wish you the very best, and we are watching you and your members to ensure that the right things are done. Thank you.
No, let's just talk to Nigerians to be orderly. It is Nigerian people that are in the park arranging the trucks are also Nigerians.
Right.
There are a lot of factors that it be the flow of trucks. They should also be listening now that as much as they are trying to extort, they are also stopping
the whole process.
So we should all collaborate. We work together to have the true flow.
All right.
Hopefully, by the grace of God, by the end of the week, stability will come to the market.
All right.
Thank you. I'm so sorry to Nigeria for what we are facing. It's just for a short time. We will get over it.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you the very best. We'll take a moment now. When we return, yes, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu has handed over. What next? Really, that's a big question. And we have Samson Itodo joining us to walk through the next crucial moments for Nigeria's electoral body, INEC. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And it's not just a crucial moment for Nigeria's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, but also a crucial time for Nigeria as we approach the next general election. In fact, the next set of off-cycle elections. Some would say it's the end of an era for INEC following the exit of Professor Mahmoud Yakub after 10 years in the saddle. So what next? Joining us to have this conversation is one who should know and one who is passionate about electoral matters. Is the Executive Director of Yaga Africa. Mr. Samson Itodo joins us here in our Abuja studio. Welcome, Mr. Itodo.
Thanks for having me.
I've been seeing a lot of Lagos studio for Abuja.
It's good to see you in Abuja.
Yes, it's good to see you too.
Thanks for having me.
It's apt to ask what you believe to be the greatest legacy of Professor Mahmoud Yakub, having worked closely with him, from a distance at Yaga Africa.
I think one of the greatest legacies that Mahmoud leaves behind is the automation of our electoral processes, especially the introduction of technology. Quite frankly, the BVAS and the IREV were conceptually a game changer for our electoral process. Now, I dare say that when you look across elections in different parts of Africa and also other parts of the world, our sophistication in the use of technology for our electoral process is quite advanced. So the BVAS is one legacy because, yes, there are challenges with the BVAS, but to a large extent, it has deepened the integrity of the accreditation process. It was an improvement, yes, on the smart card reader. The IREV, for the first time, we had the opportunity, even though it was consolidating on a process that Professor Jega started, but it was the first time that you had an online platform where citizens could, access the results. So that's one legacy. Yes, the politicians have tried to make a mess, of these technologies, but if we retain this technology, block some of those loopholes, it will limit human interference in our electoral process. I think the other thing, you say are part of the legacies that Professor Mahmoud leaves behind is the sort of reforms introduced in the management of elections. Some are not known to the public. The security features introduced on things like ballot papers, on the result sheets, they were not known to the public, but for those of us who work in elections, we also see and we observed how those processes were implemented. You can talk about inclusion. INEC was very vocal in advancing inclusion of persons living with disability, women and youth. So there's just so much. 10 years in the life of an institution is indeed a long time. But there are, several setbacks. You can look at where's the level of trust today in the electoral process. You also look at how other actors interfered, with the functions of INEC. And that also deepened, sort of the lack of integrity of the electoral process. The whole point about, the back end of the BVAS, the back end of the IREF, subjecting that, to public scrutiny. Yes, if you look at, things like online pre-registration was introduced by Mahmoud. Yes, there's to a large extent, improvement in the voters register, but there are lots of gaps that needs to be blocked. But I think that it's a mixed bag. But you cannot wish away that Professor Mahmoud introduced remarkable reforms. We are yet, as a country, to maximize the utility and the potential of those reforms because of the actors of our politicians. But I think that one thing that Professor Mahmoud leaves behind, to a large extent, is a weak INEC. And weak to the extent that there is a lot of political interference with the functions of INEC. A classic example is the appointment of partisan recs. And the chairman is not the appointing authority. But under the Professor Mahmoud, we saw how 3 resident electoral commissioners were removed from office because of either things like insubordination, lack of competence, but also manipulating the electoral process. But we have a weak INEC today, weak because of political interference, but also this same INEC was starved of resources to manage elections. As we speak, INEC has not gotten all the money for the 2023 elections. And we've said this repeatedly. that the by-elections that held in August should have held last year. Why? It couldn't, because the commission was not given the funding that it requires for elections. So when you look at elections broadly, you need to look at the interplay of other, actors in the electoral process.
But does the interference that you talk about, either it's human interference at the institution itself or external from politicians, do they trump the positives by which we can assess? Do they trump the positives by which we can assess Professor Mahmood Yakubu?
Well, like I said, it's a mixed bag, and you have to do a balancing act, because when you look at some of the reforms, those were reforms that Nigeria required. So you give it to him that he led those reforms. We needed those reforms and even much more. But the question about reforms, and I'll say three things. One, that did the commission assert its independence in the way that it should to protect those reforms? I would say it did partly, but there are certain places that there were missed opportunities. The first one was, when you look at the voters' register, prior to the last elections, there were cases, where there was padding of the voters' register. There were illegal people who were on the voters' register, and those were what? Those who were responsible were some INEC officials. INEC constituted a panel to sanction those people. The public, as at today, is not aware of what kind of disciplinary actions were taken against those INEC officials. That's one. But if you put it against the resident electoral commissioners, you see that on one hand, yes, there were sanctions, but on the other hand, we as the public were not aware of some of those actions that were taken. The second point is this whole inconsistency, in the application of INEC's guidelines in certain instances, especially as it relates to collation of results. Yes, to a large extent, there's nothing the Electoral Commission and the leadership can do, because the law is very clear that once a returning officer has made a declaration, it's final. But by virtue of Section 64 of the Electoral Act, INEC can review. The question is, how often did INEC activate that power of review? Did INEC issue a set of guidelines prior to a few months ago when INEC issued those guidelines? There were gaps, but we saw how the commission responded to it. So it's really a mixed bag. But I think at the heart of this is when you go to the street and ask Nigerians, do they believe that their votes count in today's Nigeria? Is the level of trust as high as it was prior to the 2023 election? The answer is a capital no, right? And there are several data sets that establish it. This is why we are now at a critical moment of rebuilding trust in the electoral process. And how and who becomes the next INEC chairman and the other national commissioners will determine the sort of, credibility and legitimacy of the next elections. But yes, Professor Mahmood has served his country. We congratulate him on his tenure. The reforms that he's introduced, I believe strongly in some of those reforms. Those reforms need to be protected, but there are certain gaps and missed opportunities, and there are bigger lessons that we need to learn if we're really interested in the legitimacy of our electoral processes.
And just before we get to Lagos, reforms are critical to results. So yes, we're celebrating the results, but ultimately, when you consider the application of the reforms to electoral conduct itself, how would you assess INEC under his watch when you consider the 2015 elections to 2019 elections, 2023 elections?
I think, again, it's a mixed bag. You have to do a balancing act. Because one, under Professor Mahmood, it was the first time in the history of Nigeria, and maybe Nigerians don't know this, that we as a country printed our ballot papers and result sheets in Nigeria. In other words, local production of electoral materials happened under Professor Mahmood. Since I would say 1999, all our ballot papers and result sheets for general elections were printed outside Nigeria. That was what accounted for the postponement of elections in 2011, the logistical challenges that we encountered. So you see that, yes, somehow there's an improvement, of election, but you cannot wish away the conduct, of the other political actors, especially security agencies, as well as what? As well as our politicians, and how they continue to assault on the independence, of INEC. For instance, when we talked about Adamawa the last time, you saw how the REC, behaved. One of the RECs from Sokoto, the former RECs, is being prosecuted for corruption and bribery. And this is why INEC under Professor Mahmood was also advocating that the power to appoint resident electoral commissioners should not be vested in the president. It should be vested in INEC. The same way the power to appoint commissioners of police in the police force isn't vested in the president, it's vested in the IG of police. So it's really, a mixed bag. Again, I would say that, yes, to a large extent, some of the things we experienced was that the higher INEC improved on its technical competence, the greater the political interference with the commission. And the question is, did the commission resist that political interference? There were cases it did, there were cases it dropped the ball.
So much to reflect on and so much to unpack there, but I'm sure Kayode has follow-up questions for you, particularly as they have to do with the appointment of the next INEC chairman. Kayode, over to you, or chairwoman.
Well, and that's where we're headed to, really. We see two options before us, more than two options, actually. But let me just try to restrict it to two possibilities. Internal recruitment or external recruitment. That's how I choose to see this. But there's a breakdown of the options in-house and just how much time they have left before their tenure expires. That's for the national commissioners. So if it's not going to be internal, I don't know what it will be for you, either internal or external, but maybe look at the options internally and externally as well. Are we looking at yet another professor? Someone made a joke recently and said, are we looking at Samson Itodo as a possible INEC chair?
Definitely not me, because I'm not qualified. But I'm not yet qualified.
So speak to us about what you're permutating and combining as it is.
Well, I don't know if it'll be a professor. Well, as you know, the Council of State is meeting tomorrow. Yeah. We hope that one of the issues will be a consideration of a nominee from the president, because the Council of State is required by virtue of Section 154 of the Constitution to advise the president. So we don't know what will come out of that, but we expect that it will accelerate this process in view of the fact that we have the Anambra elections. But you did put up a slide earlier. Yes, the INEC chairman has gone, but there are 9 other national commissioners that would leave before the 2027 elections. So if those who are, qualified for reappointment are not reappointed, in 2027, we would have a relatively new INEC leadership. So when you look at the screen, you look at next year, 4 national commissioners would leave because their term will have come to an end. But those 4 national commissioners are qualified for reappointment because this is just their first term. When you look at 2027, exactly 22nd of February, because the next election would hold on the 20th of February. Again, if you want to commend Professor Mahmood, it was under his administration that they ensured the regularity of election timetables. So we can tell the dates of the next general elections in 2031 up till about 2063 or so, and thanks to the Mahmood administration. So in 2027, 5 other national commissioners will exit INEC. So there are 9 national commissioners. 2 of them, Mrs. May Agbamuche, who is the current acting chair, and National Commissioner Mohammed Haruna, are serving their second term, so they would not be qualified or eligible for reappointment. So you're going to have 7 national commissioners actually leave. And so it's really critical as we go into this appointment process. But the bigger question is, what is the qualification? What kind of INEC chairman are Nigerians seeking for? And there are 5 things that Nigerians have said. The first one is, yes, the Constitution says you have to be non-partisan. But it's not just being non-partisan. It's that you shouldn't have been a member of a political party, whether in the past or presently. That's one. The second is you need individuals of impeccable, character. You need individuals who can resist political pressure. You need individuals, who have experience, whether it's in election or in a related field. And Kayode, you said a professor. I don't think that professors have monopoly of managing elections, but it looks like it's been a trend, so we wouldn't be surprised if we see another professor, but also someone who has that mental alertness and that ability, because managing election is such a complex enterprise. And we hope that the president will be guided by this as he begins the process of appointing the next chair. But Professor Mahmoud's exit is perhaps the first major activity in the entire timeline of the leadership transition that INEC is experiencing.
And some would say that it's not an accident that Mrs. May Agbamuche Umbo is one, acting right now, although, her tenure expires in 2027. But is it a signal to the Council of State that perhaps we should consider a chairwoman as the next INEC boss?
Yeah, May Agbamuche will not be the first female acting chair. Former Commissioner Hajia Amina Zakari was in acting capacity before Professor Mahmoud assumed office. So it won't be, the first time. There are two of them who are the most senior, but she was picked. I think that all of this needs to be situated within the broader conversation around women leadership. And that when people think that elections are just, are too complex and too technical for women, it's not the truth. One of the finest electoral commissioners you have, whether in Nigeria or across Africa, are women. We've seen female chairs of electoral commissions in South Africa, in Cape Verde. In fact, in Ghana, the current chair, Madam Jean Mensah, is a female. So there are female chairs of electoral commission. So I don't know why Nigeria should be different. You have qualified women who can be chairs, of the electoral commission. But I think it's disappointing, and perhaps we should be ashamed of ourselves as a country that in the history of the electoral commission there hasn't been any substantive female chair of the electoral commission. So it's the president's prerogative. He has an opportunity. Can we, as part of his own legacy, also consider a female chair of the Electoral Commission? And he will be making history. But again, it's his prerogative, and we look forward to who becomes the nominee and how the Senate will manage this process. Because it's not just the president. How the Senate manages the process of the confirmation process is really critical. And this whole point about taking the bow cannot happen with the INEC chair. I listened to your comments this morning about the former Minister of Science and Technology and how he was asked to take a bow. If the Senate had scrutinized, his credentials, maybe they would have actually spotted this. And so we are calling on the Senate. In fact, today, civil society will be sending official letters to the 109 senators across the Senate with the framework for citizens' engagement. Once the nomination is read on the floor, National Assembly should publish, the criteria. They should publish the credentials of the nominee and invite the public within a certain timeline to submit memorandum and petitions against any nominee, and they should consider those memorandum and petitions on their merit. When you make this process, citizens-led, citizens-driven, and transparent, you boost confidence on the part of Nigerians, especially Nigerians who are thinking that they are not going to show up to vote at the next election because their vote will not count. So, how the Senate manages this process, the due diligence that it performs, would really show to Nigerians if they are committed to an independent, inclusive, accountable, and transparent INEC.
And that's critical.
Very
Speaking
critical.
of what else that is critical would be the next INEC chairman. You've talked to us about the criteria that Nigerians are looking for: non-partisan, a man of integrity, who would not crumble beneath the weight of political pressure. Perhaps, the decision has already been made, and we're just waiting for the process of scrutiny with the Council of State, and with the Senate. Some Nigerians may have already made up their minds that whoever is coming is going to be, as always, at the whims and caprices of the appointee, of the appointer, in this case, the president. What can civil society do differently this time to ensure that the process is transparent and it goes the way of popular will?
So civil society have been working on the new INEC campaign, which YAGA Africa is a part of. And we've been having lots of advocacy and discussions around this. Now, there are sort of three different stakeholders involved in the appointment process. The first is the president. He has the power by virtue of the Constitution. He's the appointing authority. But the Constitution says the Council of State would need to advise him. The president is not compelled by the Constitution to adopt or take the advice of the Council of State. It's just advisory. But we believe that the Council of State would advise the president, in line and in a public interest. And then afterwards, it goes to the Senate. Today, the members of the Council of State would receive official letters, from civil society, calling on them to draw the attention of the president when they advise him to this criteria that has been set by citizens, but also urge the president to be a statesman and live above board in appointing the next INEC chairman. And it should be one who does not have any partisan connections, because it would inspire the trust and confidence of Nigerians, and one that has the capacity and ability to resist political pressure and those criteria. But secondly, is to also ask that when the Senate begins its consideration, this confirmation process is not one where you ask a nominee to come take a bow, because INEC is a critical institution for our democracy. You have to scrutinize that particular individual. There are specific questions that you need to ask those individuals. But like I mentioned earlier, civil society have been keeping watch over this process. You know what happened during one of the appointment process? When the former President Buhari appointed some commissioners, civil society submitted petitions against some of the nominees because of their reputation and their background, national commissioners. When the petitions were submitted, the Senate declined considering the petitions on the basis that those petitions were not accompanied by an affidavit. There's no way civil society would have known, because it's not written in any book or any guidelines that you needed to accompany your petition or memo with an affidavit. They just sprung a surprise, on civil society. That's not something that should happen under the 10th Senate. I listened to the Senate president yesterday, who said that as a Senate, they'll be accountable to Nigerians. The first test for this Senate yesterday is this appointment confirmation process. The way they make it open, live, and ask people to participate in the hearing would really inspire public trust and people have a unique opportunity. And I want to give them the benefit of doubt that they would seize it in the best interest of our democracy.
And what you have said is quite apt about this being a collective responsibility. So all Nigerians must, take on that challenge. That's to be at alert. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Samson Etodo, for your time on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Etodo is the Executive Director of YAGA Africa. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll talk to you about the environment. It's a critical conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about what concerns everybody, the environment. Whether you like it or not, you are attached to the environment. And the Federal Minister of Environment has warned that several locations across 16 states may experience heavy rainfall likely to result in flooding. We are in the season of flooding, and this whole October, spilling over into November, lots of communities will experience flooding. But, this is not a surprise, right? We've had this year in, year out. And the government has come maybe during flooding, before or after, to say, this is what we're doing to this area. We're dredging this area. We're demolishing buildings. We're just pulling them down, doing this and that just to ensure that they mitigate the effect of flooding. But one catches our attention this morning, the dredging, or the expected dredging of the Ogun-Osun River. But apparently, it looks like there's some controversy around that. Is the work being done or not? We're joined on the program this morning by the Secretary of the Lagos Ogun River Basin Communities Association, Mr. Olarewaju Smith. He's right here with us in our Lagos studio. Welcome to the program, Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much, Kayode.
So it is quite shocking to hear that after all of the photographs, the photo ops for the dredging, that you say that nothing is being done by the Ogun Osun River Basin Development Authority. So speak to us, because what we understand is the Ogun River should be dredged in time for the flood, which is right here.
Yeah.
You stay within those areas, your communities stay there. Yeah. Can you speak to us about the work being done or otherwise?
Thank you very much, Kayode. You know, last year I was here for this same issue when we had that devastating flood last year. And as usual, every year there's this apprehension in the communities when they are at the peak of the late rains, that is September, October. There's excessive release from Oya Dam by the Ogun Osun River Basin Development Authority. And this exhibited by the continuous heavy rainfall upland and downstream, and also the additions from the tributaries. The capacity of discharge from the dam and all these inflows downstream is beyond that of Ogun River. As a result, you have an overflow into the communities. And once that overflow occurs, you have the communities are shut down. Lives impacted, we have fatalities, livelihood lost, collateral damage, properties damaged, property value crumble. People see their lifelong investment going to just like that. And over the years, we've been having this relationship with Ogun Osun River Basin when the former director was there. At times like this, because we need to assuage the fears of the communities, we go to the dam, we see the level, they give us this forecast and then release outlook for the year. So we already look at it and we tell our people there's going to be flood this year. And then we now work with them to see how they manage it through efficient releases. Although we've not been achieving much, but to some extent. So last year we were excited when we had the president himself, that is President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the director of Ogun Osun River Basin, Dr. Ashiru, called on us and told us when we were in his office for that same kind of engagement that the president has approved the dredging of Ogun River. You know what it is when the communities hear presidential project. Everybody was happy that at last there's recognition. Asiwaju has recognized this community because he was the governor of Lagos State when one of the estates around here, the Misheri estate, I think Oshun, was at birth. So we said, he's an action person. We know finally solution has come. So, but just 2-3 weeks when Dr. Ashiru was here in this program and gave some kind level of assurance that there will be no flood this year, we were shocked. We woke up one morning. Initially, we saw the water overflow across the Long Bridge down into the communities, but just within 2 weeks after the assurance, the whole communities were submerged. Lives, students could not go to school. Water was contaminated. There was health risks here and there, fatalities, livelihoods lost, collateral damage. And this is an industrial hub. Yeah. You have lots of industries here. Water entered the place and ruined their equipment. So I was in this program and I said, this is 2 months into that flag off. We were invited for the flag off, a presidential project. The Obas were there, the native, all the traditional rulers were there, the people were there. We mobilized communities that finally, this is a federal project.
Where was the location of that?
Itowolo, along Ikorodu Road.
Okay.
Yes, just after Mile 12, right. Owode-Oniri area.
So the dredging was meant to take place there?
It was to start from that place. It was a 10-kilometer dredging.
So from there all the way?
All the way down to Isheri. So right. They are starting downstream and walking upstream.
Where are they now?
As at May, Kayode, the we were getting information from our communities, because every week we send people there to find out what is the level. They said, Oga, like they say, no work. We said, what?
That is months after the...
Months. This was at May this year. Right. So the association now said, let us go and see. Maybe these gentlemen, these community individuals don't understand what dredging is. Because dredging is actually you pumping water and debris from the stream, the river. That is, you're increasing the capacity of flow, such that whenever there's any release, there will be seamless flow downstream. We got there and found out that what they did was they only cleared water hyacinth downstream. Now, upstream, there was no activity. That is, we're talking of 10 kilometers. But upstream, we can't even see 100 meters. No tangible dredging.
Compared to the 10 kilometers that you were meant to do.
10 kilometers is like twice the Long Bridge. So and you can't even find just 100 meters. You know 100 meters, a 5-year-old can run 100 meters. You can't even see a 100-meter dredging. No equipment on site the day we got there.
When was the last time you checked?
We checked July 28th again, and we got information, because we always call our people, but we go, you know. As at last night, we still called our people to be sure, if anything, because we are very optimistic. This is a presidential project. It must be done. They still told us, Oga, no equipment.
So obviously...
No equipment. What they only did was manual with shovels and boats to clear water hyacinth. And that's not dredging.
Just for Nigerians who are wondering, what is water hyacinth? It's a plant that grows.
It's a plant that grows.
So that's what they actually cleared.
That is what the young men are clearing. All right? Then they've not dredged, because if you want to dredge, you bring your equipment down, you send your pipes and booms down that will be pumping from the sea water bed, the river bed, to increase the capacity. That has not been done. No tangible dredging in the 10 kilometer, any angle, so that you don't say you did not start from Itowolo. And our fears is that with that dredging not executed, and we're at the peak of the rainy season, what do you expect? Any release now or any heavy, high-intensity rainfall, there will be no seamless flow of the river.
So those are images, some of the images sent of that area.
Yes.
So this is the state of the area right now.
Yes, you can see this is the upstream area. Look at that debris. Look at the cake. You can stand on it. This is in the middle of River Ogun.
So that should be cleared, actually.
That should be cleared.
Space.
First of all, when you clear that, for starters, that is like preambles. You now send your equipment down to the base of the water. Then you start pumping from the riverbed to increase the capacity. All the silts there, you pump it. So the capacity is increased. You now have seamless flow on the river.
So this is the situation.
This is the situation, and that's why we're trying. We had to cry out to the president on the 22nd of September. We wrote an open letter.
And has anything been done?
We know the president is he was away, but we know he's back, and we know something must be done, and that's why we won't shut up till something is done, because these are lives. We have millions living across these areas.
And the rains are here.
The rains are here already. And the predictions are not fair from NIMET. They've warned us, and the Ogun State government, you remember 2 weeks ago, Mr. Olaoresonya told the communities that you have to relocate. And the people said, to where? Because this is coming as a shock. Where would we relocate to? Where will you? You can't. And he did that. You know, he's a gentleman, a refined gentleman and a professional. He has been with us. We call him, he listens, and he has been giving us assurances over. He was the one who, through the, Governor Dapo, last year, did the dredging, the silting of Okparo River.
Right.
So we now have one major channel busting out at Itowolo.
So the Ogun Ocean River Basin Authority has to go back to the site and continue work. That's the minimum.
That is the minimum. But Kayode, at this stage, we are crying out. Whether it is the Lagos State governor, the Lagos State government, through this fantastic gentleman, Tokunbo Waha.
All right.
Let him come and, because we need help. When you need help,
right
you
now,
are not calling any name.
It's emergency.
It is emergency. We want help. for the communities. If not, what will be recorded this year will be more severe than past year, because even the drainage Governor Dapo did last year, a community that the culvert was cut for water to pass, and they were promised that they were going to build a culvert across. They've gone back after waiting for a year because they've been expecting the Governor Dapo. They filled 2 sections. As at day before yesterday, we got information they filled 2 sections of the Okparo River to be able to assess their communities, because they can't continue to wait for government.
And nothing has been done.
Exactly.
We have to thank you so much for your time and for raising the alarm. We must ensure that people do the work that they've been put there to do.
It's a social contract they must honor.
Exactly,
That's
and
the
not put
minimum
lives at risk.
they owe the people.
Clearing water hyacinths. Come on.
Communities can even pay those
they can do that, right?
Water hyacinths.
Secretary, Lagos Ogun River Basin Communities Association, Mr. Olariwaju Smith, thank you for your time. And of course, this is something we're following up with. And we'll speak with the authorities also on the
And please help us cry out.
Right.
We need help. We're not concerned about the person,
exactly
but we want the job to be done.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll talk about opportunities for Nigerian students who seek to pursue their studies abroad. This one you'll find very interesting. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Well, it's a global village, and there are opportunities across the globe. It's important to harness these opportunities, leverage them to ensure that we get the very best for ourselves, for our nation, and for the world at large. And we're joined on the program by a group that is offering some of these opportunities to Nigerians who seek to study abroad. We have joining us on the program today Andy Caldwell, who's a Group Chief Commercial Officer, Oxford International Education Group, and Oliver Radburn, Regional Sales Director. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I bet you're enjoying the weather.
It's like being at home.
You're welcome to Lagos. But let's start from the basics. For a lot of people who are wondering, yes, we hear your title. Yes, we probably have heard about what you do, but we need to hear from you. So speak to us just briefly about yourself and what your roles are in this whole scheme of things.
Perfect. Perhaps I'll begin. So we are Oxford International. We support students from across the world in finding options to study, to enhance their careers, their future employment opportunities across different colleges and universities around the world. So we work with a number of different universities in the UK, the USA, Canada, and Australia. And I think for myself, I've been working in international education now for over a decade. And I am really passionate about wanting to help support international students, and today talking particularly about Nigerian students who are really passionate about wanting to better their lives and find education as a path to being able to do that and find more employment opportunities in today's global village.
Absolutely, and it's important to keep with the trends globally. You can't take away the passion from Nigerian students. If there's anything we love education. Oli, I want you to chime in here as well, the work that you do and how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my role is really to look after our regional teams. So we have teams based all around the globe, but my team are based here in Nigeria, looking after the West African markets. Those guys are here on the ground to make sure that students have access to people that understand the processes, understand the challenges of coming to the UK, and make it simple and streamlined and easy for students to be able to navigate those processes and challenges. So really, I come here quite often to Nigeria. It's one of my favourite places to come and visit. Everyone's so welcoming and wonderful when I come here. But what I also see at the moment is a real desire to go and explore and expand and come and study internationally.
Yeah, and so I want us to look at the impact of your outreach in Africa, because it's important to link the work you do and the real impact. That's what will really sell what you do. So perhaps you can speak to us about the impact of Oxford International's outreach in Africa. What are the stories you have?
I mean, we've got some fantastic stories of graduates who have been with our institutions across the destinations that we work with, who are coming in learning new skills, new ways of thinking. You know, the higher education system across the 4 different destinations in which we work is so very different to the education system in Nigeria, but also many countries around the world. The critical thinking, the opportunities to network with British students, but students who come from all over the world to the UK, the USA, Canada, and Australia. to build a truly global network. We've got alumni from our partner institutions who have come back to Nigeria, set up businesses using their networks that they built from British students, students in China, Indonesia, Latin America, who are building truly global businesses, but now out of Nigeria. And we have people who have actually gone onto entrepreneur visas in the UK and different countries where they're coming to study as well. There's a lot of opportunity for students, depending what they want to do. And I think where we have some of the best case studies are where we have students coming to study with us and they're really immersing themselves in the experience. And we work with institutions all around the UK, from London to Wales to Scotland, as well as the institutions that we have across the USA, Canada and Australia. And people who really throw themselves into that experience, not just studying hard, but making the most of the opportunity to learn about the culture of the country that they're in, network, and take full advantage of the extra benefits, the extracurricular activities that universities offer in the UK and the other major destinations. That's what really helps give today's students, the students from Nigeria, the edge in coming to find what is going to make them stand out in a very competitive employment environment.
And it's important to talk about networking. I think that's one of the things that absolutely makes education beautiful. The fact that you can think of, doing something in Europe and you have someone there. You want to do something in Canada and you have someone there. You can leverage that relationship. So speaking of networking, I want to talk about the kind of relationships that you've been able to build. Because, I mean, they say if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. So what kind of networks have you been able to build? What kind of relationships have you been able to build? What kind of partnerships have you been able to build to drive success in this region?
Yeah, no problem. So we have a large network of recruitment partners that we work with here in West Africa that represent us and support the team that we work with. As well as that, we spend a lot of time visiting independent schools, high schools, to go and raise awareness about studying in the UK and the other destinations that we have, and to make sure all students know that these opportunities are out there, because often what we find is that there's so much information out there now, especially with access to so much on the internet, that it's hard to know what's really right for you. So we really are now able to take a very tailored approach to how we speak to people, find the right programs for them, find the right destination, and really put them into programs that will help them excel in their futures, rather than just offering a kind of a huge broad range and go, you choose something. We can really work with all of our students that we speak to and make sure that they get the right offers for them.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the opportunities now. Speak to us about some of your newly launched programs in the UK, perhaps something to excite young Nigerians out there who are thinking, what is next for me?
So I think it's a great question. So I think about the depth of institutions that we work with, and I guess we'll focus more today on the UK, because the UK is a very hot destination at the minute for Nigerian students. And whether that's undergraduate students, we have a range of different universities that we work with. We work with the University of Greenwich, De Montfort University, Edinburgh Napier University, and that's just three of many that we do work with across the country. But I think one of the most important things I'll focus on before I hand over to Ollie to talk a little bit more about some of the major areas is one of the biggest frustrations that I think many international students face, and it's definitely the case for Nigerian students, is wanting to get a quick decision. Am I eligible? Do I have the right academic criteria? Do I have the right language criteria? Do I have my personal statement correct? Is it what the university wants to see? We see our role in making that bridge complete between the student and the institution. And we've invested heavily in technology to help make the application journey really seamless. So students who are thinking about or want to go to the UK to study, whether that's a postgraduate degree, whether that's an MBA, whether that's an undergraduate qualification, actually getting a decision from a university can often be so frustrating for students. So when we're talking with students and our local partners, one of the biggest frustrations is we just want to know, am I eligible? So actually we've come up with a new system and a new platform that enables students to get really quick decisions. So students who are going onto our website, oxfordinternational.com, can go to the Apply Now pages, upload their details, and they can find out on the platform that they are eligible or not. If they're not eligible, it will then make recommendations of, unfortunately, you're not eligible for this course,
but you can go
but
for
this course you are eligible for. You can apply, and then you can upload your documents. If you haven't got your documents, no problem, you can submit them later. We'll make a conditional offer, and that conditional offer will go straight to your email inbox. Instant decisions within the platform. So students can do that now. That's already live on oxfordinternational.com.
I think that's really brilliant. But you know what? It gets better on the show this morning. We're going to give you a feel of the nation's capital, Abuja, where my colleague is right there. Bukola, over to you now.
Yes, thank you, Kadi. It's quite exciting to hear what OIG is doing, particularly with its impact in Africa, where I believe it was Andy that was talking about products of the institution, taking space in the entrepreneurship space and creating outstanding businesses. But my question is for the target audience that you're speaking to, those who are eligible to apply for courses of study. There's a growing portion of that population who are beginning to rethink the relevance of education and, preferring to take up skills or, become content producers after they leave secondary school. I'd like you to speak to them about the importance and the difference, that the OIG will make in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely, no problems at all. And I think what's great about our programs is really there's no age limit. So students, you typically consider a student 18 to 21. And that is a big part of the demographic of students that we recruit. But at the same time, mature students are becoming a lot. After years in work, trying to get further skills so that they can further their careers. So we do have lots of mature students coming in to do masters with us, study MBAs, and because we have such a wide range of programs available, there's always something that we can find that would be suitable to help people progress in their careers.
And I think I would just add. I think I'll just quickly add, modern day skills are critical. Lots of today's youth are throwing themselves into creating content. It's a great way of being able to find business opportunities and work with brands to build revenue in today's modern era. But being able to get the critical thinking that higher education provides is still absolutely critical. And one of the key topics that we find when talking with students is actually they're thinking about their return on investment. What are they getting from higher education? And the employment outcomes that universities give. So we think about what universities, what our partners are focused on, is not just giving students an excellent experience whilst they're at university, but it's about the lifelong partnership that they build with that institution post-graduation. The alumni experience, the employment support, skills are absolutely critical. But what is also critical is what the students learn in their critical thinking, their ability to challenge one another, engage in debate, and being able to think differently. That is what higher education will always provide.
Instructive. I wonder if that is the same thinking in other parts of Africa where you're also recruiting from, and you might want to also add, talking to us about the partnerships that you're forming, to encourage an appetite for higher education in those other regions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have teams based in East Africa and Kenya, in Southern Africa and Zimbabwe as well. So we really do expand our network right the way across Africa to make sure that we reach as many international students as possible. I think what we find with West Africa is the demand is significantly higher, but what we also find is Nigerian students are some of our best and brightest. They progress very, very well in our programs, perform extremely well throughout their university careers, and we've had quite literally hundreds of students now come through and find really great roles in a wide variety of industries following on from studying with us.
I was going to say flattery will get you far, Ollie, but it's actually true. Nigerian students do great. Now, we see that across the board. As we wind down, there is a lot of competition for African and Nigerian students. It's like the beautiful bride. Everybody wants to be the husband. Even from within, there's a lot of competition. So what are you offering? What is Oxford International offering that is different, that you think is different?
So let me begin by going back to my earlier point around wanting to give students the best experience. And that starts from the very beginning. If a student's applying to a university or an institution, and that institution is not even responding to them in a reasonable amount of time, that's not helpful for the student. So what do Oxford International do? We now, like I said, we now have a platform that enables students to get an instant decision. Where am I eligible to go? So that's now available on oxfordinternational.com. Students can go there, apply and find out what are they eligible for and get a conditional offer straight in their inbox. So that's number one. Number two, we know that finances are always a critical issue across the continent, particularly, of course, here in Nigeria. Now, of course, the Naira is becoming much more favourable to the pounds. That is making opportunities for study abroad a bit more financially easy. However, scholarships are still an important decision, are still an important factor in making a decision on not just the destination of study, which country, but which institution, which course. We do have a range of scholarships available, particularly for Nigerian students, whether that's undergraduate level or postgraduate level, to make sure that actually we are increasing access to higher education for students here in Nigeria. And the other thing I would add is flexibility in being able to pay.
There you go.
So I already knew your next question before you asked.
That is usually a seller. But you talk about the website and would like people to see the QR code for people who want to just scan and register right now, or just explore what you have. So that's the QR code. Just get your phone, scan it, get access to all of the great things that Oxford International is promising. You can do that right away. And final thoughts. We have about 30 seconds to close on this. Final thoughts.
So my final thought is just on payment plans, flexibility on payment. Students, many of our partners can pay over 7-8 payments throughout the year. So students who are thinking about, can I afford studying abroad? The answer is predominantly yes. We're here to welcome Nigerian students into the UK as well as the US, Canada and Australia. I'd encourage everyone to use that QR code. If you missed it, head on over to oxfordinternational.com and so you make your applications. We look forward to welcoming you.
Andy, thank you for your time, as well as Ollie. It's good to have you in Nigeria. We hope you enjoy all of your time and food and the rest. Thank you for your time. Wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you for yours. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. The QR code, you can always rewind if you want to scan it or just visit the website. But that's where we draw the curtains on the show today. Thank you for being a part. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up next. Join us again tomorrow and all through the week. I am Bukola Koka.